Does recent market volatility have you reconsidering your investment approach? Stay tuned to learn more about the intersection of wealth planning and portfolio management. Hello, my name is Brian Hungarter, wealth advisor at Girard, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Tim Chubb, Girard's Chief Investment Officer, to touch on a timely topic, the intersection of wealth planning and investment management. We know that recent markets have been maybe a little more volatile than usual, right? Geopolitical forces, global pandemics, the longest market cycle in US history. How do we consider marrying a client's long-term vision with short-term implication? Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here.
So Tim, obviously a client experience at Girard can be defined in two major ways, right? Wealth planning and portfolio management. Clients on our channel have heard me go incessantly on various wealth planning topics. We've not always taken the time to marry the left hand to the right as far as constructing an overall client experience. How do you get started from a portfolio management point of view, knowing a client has created a wealth plan?
Yeah, after that wealth plan is created and some of those, goals are really well defined, then it starts with, the high level asset allocation and the selecting those investments. But one of the things that's really important as we go through that experience is trying to understand risk tolerance and trying to match, are we taking on enough risk to meet those goals? Or are we not taking on enough risk? Or in some cases, are we taking on more risk than a client is going to be comfortable with, creating a portfolio that's not going to create the outcome because they're not going to be able to stick to it.
And that's only exacerbated when we see market volatility, right?
I think one of the biggest problems or mistakes that we see clients sometimes make is just not staying disciplined to that overall plan. And if markets are volatile, unpredictable at times, but in the long run, we feel pretty comfortable with their upward to the right direction. And as a result, I think having that mix and trying to, take the emotion out of it, focus on the investment thesis, if it's a single investment that's causing a lot of concern, but the risk management is such a, really big piece of the puzzle, and trying to figure out how the specific portfolio DNA should match to the client's specific, emotional DNA with how they, think about the markets.
And one of the ways we try to attack that from an investing standpoint is through the lens of diversification.
Yep, exactly. It's diversification between stocks and bonds and making sure that not everything in your portfolio is going to go the same direction at the same time. Having that, uncorrelated, piece without getting into too technical into that. But it's also, sizing things right. And I think one of the most common mistakes we see clients make, especially if they're managing the money on their own prior to working with us, is not properly diversifying between stocks and bonds, but oftentimes having large concentrated positions, large holdings and investments that they're just not sure what to do with, or they fall in love with, and they're not thinking necessarily as rationally as they should in the grand scope and scheme of things with their plan.
We often say wealth is both created and destroyed through concentration. Wealth is preserved through diversification, right?
Yep.
So there's a place for concentration in the wealth accumulation journey. Inherently, that carries more risk with it than a more diversified portfolio.
It does, and I'd say the opposite of that is we find that a lot of or one of the other major mistakes is being too conservative or holding perhaps too much cash or being afraid to get invested into the market and trying to time it and not having the discipline to say, just like maybe you're contributing to a retirement plan through work, every 2 weeks I'm going to layer into the market. I'm going to select the companies, the investments, the funds, whatever it may be in your portfolio, and continue to get that money to work. So it's allowing your portfolio meet those goals and objectives.
If a client was to walk into your office today, fresh off the street, and say, all right, Tim, I talked to Brian, he made my head spin with some crazy financial modeling or whatever it is he was trying to accomplish. I just want to come in and talk to you about stocks,
Yep.
Right? How would you kind of steer that conversation as it pertains to talking about a client's investable universe and how they maybe distill down into a plan for themselves?
I think a lot of it is making a conscious decision of how you want to access, that area of the market. First is, again, that blank canvas. It's every stock, available in the world, and then trying to understand from a client, from what their personal preferences are. ultimately cost is very important, and we like to try to lower it as much as possible within a portfolio from a construction standpoint. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can do that and access, the stock market, whether it's using index funds or actively managed funds, going the individual stock route. There's a lot of decisions and choices to make. And I think the first things first is, okay, your stock exposure is going to be 70% of your portfolio. How much international, how much domestic, and then trying to figure out what the best vehicle is for that specific client.
And obviously the wealth plan comes hand in hand here, right? Because I can help a client define, should you be 70 stock, 30 bond, should it be 30 stock, 70 bond, whatever that looks like. And then we can interlay the portfolio management on construction and helping them reach the smoothest end.
Exactly.
Just quickly, if we flip to the opposite side, client walks into your door and says, Tim, I've only had CDs or cash my whole life, and I'm really nervous about the market. I'm so scared to see everything we work so hard to accumulate go to nothing. What would you tell that client?
The most important thing is, I always joke with, the wealth planning exercise is in some ways like a sleeping pill. It allows clients to sleep well at night. And I think it all ties back to those conversations of what is that assumed rate of return that we need to accomplish to meet those goals. That's our benchmark, that's our bogey. And so if a client only needs 4% and we know that they're going to be a very risk-averse investor, then we're going to try to design the most conservative portfolio to get to that 4% and nothing more. So oftentimes we find clients, they maybe only need that 4%, but they are much more comfortable taking on risk and want to continue to accumulate perhaps a little bit more aggressively. And so, that's the other side of things that we would consider as well.
Obviously, this is the tip of the iceberg, right? No two client situations are the same. Every single wealth plan we build has different nuances or aspects to it that will completely change how you might approach portfolio construction.
Yeah, and one of the most, I think, valuable things that we do at Girard is really diving into just truly trying to understand what you want your portfolio to accomplish for you, not just from a rate of return perspective, but how do you want to align your values? What are the most important things to see? Influencing your portfolio long term. Do you feel comfortable with owning certain companies, or perhaps that you really feel comfortable with, say, index funds, for example? Our job is to provide you the counsel to provide a portfolio that's going to meet your needs. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, and some of these conversations really try to flesh that out are really important.
Excellent. Well, that said, Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
And to the viewer, thank you for staying engaged. Wide-ranging topic, right? If you'd like to kind of distill down and maybe narrow your focus on your wealth management experience, whether it's creating wealth, stewarding wealth, passing wealth, giving money away, you name it, right? That's what we're here for. Please feel free to visit our website, meetgirard.com. While there, you'll find contact information for Tim, for myself, and the rest of our team. We look forward to learning more about your personal situation and helping you chart a path to success in the near future.